When it comes to cycling, many of us can be criticised for sometimes thinking more about the destination than the journey, and I'm no exception. The desire to arrive at the next place in good time in order to have more time to appreciate all that that city, town or campsite has to offer. The beauty of cycling, however, is the journey. So with this in mind, I decided to spend 3 nights and 4 days cycling in the Yorkshire Dales. I wouldn't be fixated about counting the kilometres, Strava would be switched off, or about where I'd be spending the night. Indeed, that aspect of the trip would be eliminated by basing myself in just one place, the popular Dales village of Malham. I would concentrate on slowing down, stopping and staring, with some filmmaking and sketching thrown in for good measure. I'd also hopefully meet some interesting characters along the way. My plans were minimal to say the least. Indeed, as I approached the youth hostel in Malham in the late afternoon of day 1, I'd decided only one thing, that the following morning I would leave the bicycle, a bike named Wanda, at the youth hostel and take a stroll further along the valley to visit Malham's famous limestone cove, climb to the top of the cliff, sit, stare and admire the view. But before anything else, I needed to acquaint myself with something that was new to me at least, a heated camping pod. However, old habits die hard, and when you're travelling on a bicycle, nothing beats hot pasta cooked on a camping stove. Let the adventure begin. So far, I've been fortunate with the weather, and I hoped it would stay that way. After picking up Wanda at the youth hostel, I cycled the short distance over the hill from Malham to Gordale and Gordale Scar. Whereas Malham Cove offers great beauty, serenity, at least out of season, without the crowds of people, and views for miles around, Gordale Scar provides a bit of Yorkshire drama. The obstacle is not insurmountable if you're a half-decent hiker. But if you're on a bicycle, it is a dead end. So instead, we turned around and continued up the valley. Surely nothing could stop us now. Spoke too soon. My tentative plan to fathom a route towards Malham Tarn had been thwarted by a field of cattle standing in my way. But the upside of this bovine barrier was that I could now retrace my steps back into the valley bottom and appreciate the view that had escaped me earlier in the afternoon. Once in Malham, the conveniently located Lister Arms pub, just next door to the youth hostel, not only provided a good pint, but also the first opportunity for me to whip out my sketching pad. Whereas the previous day had been spent both on and off the bike, today it would be cycling all the way. Although, as I made my breakfast outside the pod, I still hadn't decided where that cycle might take me. I could head north to the Tarn and loop back towards Malham via Grassington to the east. Alternatively, I could cycle south along the valley to Kirkby Malham and then venture to the west in the direction of Settle and perhaps beyond. Wherever I ended up going, I needed to keep in mind my start of trip resolutions to slow down, stop and stare. I don't think the editor of this film got the memo. that's better, thank you. In the end, I opted for a journey over the hill to Settle. The pretty church in Kirkby, Malham, offered a calm corner of Malhamdale in which to contemplate the climb that was about to start. This guy's sword might be handy if I meet any more cows. Now remember, slowly does it. To this point, the day was turning out, well, not quite as planned, as I hadn't planned it in the first place, but the cycling had been wonderful. My pit stop at the Three Peaks Cycles Cafe in Settle had topped up the energy levels, and I was now well on my way to Clapham. Upon arrival in Clapham, a village that looked almost exactly the same as it did when I visited as a child, I had a decision to take. Should I continue to cycle? Or should I take the train for at least some of the way back to Malham? there was a conveniently timed train heading in the direction I needed to travel. And I wasn't the only cyclist who was considering letting the train take the strain. So the 15:23 to Leeds it was, depositing Wanda and me at the curiously extravagant station at Hellifield. Our journey had taken us outside the national park, but we were soon welcomed back into the Yorkshire Dales with a sign and gunshots. The late afternoon sun was drenching Malham Dale in a soft autumnal light. And, with a little time to spare before heading back to the warmth of the camping pod, I wandered the back streets of Malham at the same leisurely pace that had dictated most of the day. All that remained of my visit to the Dales was the long ride home. And joining me for that journey back to the Calder Valley was friend and fellow cyclist Craig. Breakfast consumed, we set off south in the direction of home, along the canal from Gargrave and through the Lancashire countryside, before a climb over the Pennines to home. Job done. Well, nearly. These are big hills to the end of the Calder Valley. Ooh.